So we're going to talk about basically the ending of Percy Jackson
Oh, really? Okay.
and several elements that were included in this book that makes this book meaningful to many different people.
Very interesting.
So Percy Jackson had to face multiple tests through this book to prove himself that he is worthy to be Poseidon's son. So some of the most important tests are definitely the fight with Ares at the end, as well as the test of Echidna, which Zeus was testing him if his nephew was worthy. The fight with Ares allowed him to grow and think and be more strategic than actually use force. He went back and remembered the quote in which Annabeth had said, and it was like sometimes strength has to bow down to wit or smartness, basically. And Echidna, who is the mother of monsters, that fight allowed him to fight to the end and be really persistent. Instead of being cowardly, he showed his hero side, and his ADHD, which are also his hero reflexes, showed through the battle, and it allowed him to thrive and survive and use that experience
Excellent
for further
point. Excellent point, yes.
on. There are many antagonists in this book. However, the main four are definitely Kronos, Luke, Hades, and Ares. However, not all characters are 100% evil, as they have their own backstory and their own experience with the gods. For example, Kronos, yes, he is evil, and yes, he is trying to kill the gods. However, the gods have sliced him up into pieces, and he has suffered in that pit for a very long time.
Which got extra sliced?
Zeus actually sliced him, but all the gods worked together to kill him.
That's right, yes.
Luke had a very bad experience with his father, who is Hermes, I believe. And what happened was Hermes actually abandoned Luke when he was young, and that therefore allowed Luke to go into the darker side and not face the gods anymore. Hades is a character of his own, and though he is known as the god of the dead, I believe that he does have a good intention of being angry at the other gods. And to be honest, I do not think that Hades is as horrible as a lot of people think, because he's frustrated because there are a lot of dead people coming in, and his kingdom is not flourishing as much as it used to be. Ares is also not 100% bad, as he did listen to Zeus to find the culprit and the thief of the Master Ball, and he did find him, but this voice in his head, which was Kronos' voice, allowed him to kind of take the bolt for himself and his own power. He also went ahead and tricked Percy into getting the bolt and framed him for having the bolt all along. So Percy is a protagonist in the story, as well as Annabeth and Grover being his main supporting characters, but he is the main character and the protagonist, as he wins all of the battles, and his strategic thinking allows the three trio to solve problems and go to Los Angeles to meet Hades and retrieve back the Master Ball. This allows him to be the hero of the book and essentially be recognized as the good. Mainly, all of these battles do have a focus on the concept of good and evil, and what makes a person good and what makes a person evil.
That's a really good question, yes.
They have a lot of different backstories though, so not everyone's 100% evil, but it really depends on what view the readers are reading at. For example, if the readers were reading at Kronos' view and they didn't mention Kronos' name, as everyone knows that Kronos is horrible, but if someone didn't mention his name and actually read the book in his point of view, then they might have thought differently about Kronos as the gods being bad more than Kronos. ADHD and dyslexia is constantly repetitive in this book, and I believe the author himself went through a disability. I do not know which
His
one.
son, one of his
His
sons.
son, yes, his
is
son.
suffering from
Not-
ADHD. Yeah,
Not
exactly.
his,
Mm.
not he himself, but his son. His son has ADHD, and so he does have first-hand experience with ADHD. He has decided to have this disability as a power more than a burden. So he really emphasized that by saying that ADHD allows Percy to have his battle reflexes, and the, his dyslexia is because he can read ancient Greek. So a
That's
lot of
very
people think
thoughtful, yes.
a lot of people think that disabilities are a burden and that it's bad to have disabilities such as Down syndrome, growth issues, ADHD, dyslexia, etc. And it's really hard because people don't realize that people have a mind for themselves, and though they are not capable of certain things, that doesn't mean that they can't think or feel or empathize
That's
with
right.
other things. And he really pointed this out. Rick Riordan really pointed this out.
I agree. Yes, I agree.
And I just want to quickly go over his foreshadowing. So his foreshadowing is, yes, if you do have good reading skills, then you will be able to point certain details out. However, there was this one point in the book, and it was foreshadowing, and it was quite obvious what he was pointing to. So I believe the three oracles were, number one is Percy will not be able to save what he was meaning to save. Number two, he'll be betrayed by someone called friends. And the third one, what was the third one?
You shall find what restored and safely return.
And you shall find its soul stolen and safely return. And so that's a lot of foreshadowing going on. So we obviously know that the Master Belt is missing, so we can assume that the Master Belt will be returned in this specific chapter. And we know that he's looking after his mother, so we can assume that his mother is not going to be saved by Percy at the end. And at this point, we don't know who that friend is and who is betrayed, but at the last chapter it is revealed that it is Luke, and he has a terrible hatred to the Greek gods, and he is planning on being Cronus aside. This all leads to the final battle in the last book, which is very fun, by the way. But yeah, that's it.
It's wonderful. It's
Thank
great.
you.
Wonderful.